Hello, my name is Louise and welcome to the Adventures with Yarn podcast. This is my podcast where I talk mainly about knitting and crochet, but also sometimes cross-stitching or whatever else I happen to be crafting on that week. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, my name is Louise. I can be found on Instagram at Adventures with Yarn. You can also now find me on Ravelry. Adventures with Yarn now has an Ravelry page. You can find that at Adventures with Yarn, or you can find me individually on Ravelry at Adventure with Yarn, just one adventure. There's only room for the one. Yeah, so those are the ways that you can connect with me. I am so glad that you are here today. Happy Monday. Hope you guys all had a good weekend. I hope you're having a great Monday. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you are a subscriber already, welcome back. If you're new and you like what you see, feel free to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and in that way you can be kept up to date with each episode that I put out. I try my very best to put one out each Monday, but you know, sometimes life happens. So, like I said, I hope you guys are all having a really great day. I know here in Oregon, the Pacific Northwest of America, the sun has just started coming out this week. It's been very exciting, very exciting. You know, everyone's freaking out that we're actually seeing the sun. Usually it's very cloudy, pretty rainy over here in this neck of the woods. But I did get a chance to do some crafting this week. I didn't get to do as much as I might have wanted to, but you know, life happens. Sometimes different things happen than you might otherwise expect. I ended up having a friend over. We chit-chatted when I had intended to knit. I said, you can come over, we'll chit-chat, and I'll knit while we chit-chat if you're not offended. But you know, you get to chit-chatting sometimes and it's just so captivating that you just kind of freeze up on the needles and talk about whatever. And we happened to watch a movie and it was very intense, very scary, and I found myself frozen again. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna knit while I watch this. Like, when I watch almost every movie that I watch, I'll knit while I watch. But this was a scary movie, so I found myself going from like knitting to like scrunching in on myself, like watching this movie. But anyways, but I did get some knitting done. Not as much as I might have hoped that I had. I would have hoped to have had more progress to show you, but I will show you the progress that I have made. So let's start off with the socks that I'm knitting. I am knitting the Shell Cottage Socks by Helen of Curious Handmade. This is what we've got so far. I am at the toe. I have made the leg of the body, and here you can see, if you can see that texture there, meant to kind of look like seashells. And we got the heel and the foot, and now this is just working out to get the toe started. I have the length of my foot minus 2 inches from here to around here, and now we will start with the decreases and working in the round. This should be fast. This should be fairly quick going from here on to finish this, because when we get to the toe, we don't have to worry about this lovely, 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 though actually little time consuming pattern that creates that texture right there. So we'll just be knitting in the round, just stockinette, stitch, knit, 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 with like a decrease. I think the decrease is kind of like, do you say every 2 rows? If you have a decrease, then 2 rows and a decrease. That's the situation. You can see I have my cute little stitch marker there that is a little hedgehog. Knitting a little scarf there. That is from the Clever Clove. Super cute. This yarn is the color Beatrix by Biffsugar Yarns, which comes to me from England. It is a, I want to think it is a merino cashmere nylon blend. It's very, very soft. I'm very excited to be almost finished with this, but then I will need to make the second sock. So this is a part of the Handmade Sock Society. Yeah, Handmade Sock Society, which is a subscription sock club that you can join. I'll have the link below in my description. It's about $20 American, US dollars, and that gets you a total of 6 patterns, one released every other month. So I actually need to get hopping and make my second sock before the next pattern comes out in April, which is coming up here in a couple weeks. I have no clue what kind of pattern is going to be next. You know, these last ones, this one has been themed, and the whole Sock Society this year is themed of the Cornish Coast, which is in England, and at least from pictures looks very similar to the coast that we have here in Oregon. Just kind of that cold-ish, windy, but you know, like kind of, you know, mountainous-ish. I guess there's like cliffs over there, and just beautiful, beautiful, relaxing scenery. And when you join the Handmade Sock Society, you know, it's so far, the pattern comes with some dialogue that you can read. It's just very beautiful writing by Helen, describing, in this case, describing the Shell Cottage, of which these socks are named after, with seashells on the outside of the building, and inside you're all cozy, and there's a fireplace, and there's a place to sit and knit while you just relax and, you know, have this peaceful coastal getaway, which I love. And it's getting about that time of year to start doing again. I really just love getting away to the coast. My husband and I will go get a hotel, someplace where we can stay with our little Chihuahua, Houdini, where you can go out and mess with the ocean and the beach, and Houdini likes to just sniff around, but it's pretty cold, like I said, where we live. And then you can come back and cozy all up, get cleaned up, cozy up, grab my knitting in the hotel with where you can just see the ocean from your nice little cozy hotel room. See it, listen to it while you're cozying up. Yes, yes. I wouldn't, I would feel much more comfortable knitting from inside, somewhere where you could hear and see the coast. I wouldn't actually want to take my knitting out on the beach. That sounds like a mess, especially here in Oregon with the winds blowing. A little sand might kind of get on stuff. That sounds, but you guys let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. So hopefully next time I podcast, I will have this toe finished. I will have this sock finished. I will be working on the second Seashell Cottage sock. So that's that. Speaking of socks, so I was searching for something to show you guys. I'll get into that a bit later. But I did find, as I was searching around, going through my stash, going through my craft supplies, blah, 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 I did happen to find the very first sock that I knit. And here it is. I intended for this to be for my grandma, but I just never got around to making the second sock. I'm fairly certain that this is a 100% wool. I can't think of the name. I want to say Croy might be the name of the yarn, but basically yarn, sock yarn that you can buy at a craft store, and it's basically one little. They come in a skein that is enough to make like one whole sock. As you can see, I did finish it. It has a square toe rather than a rounded toe, which looks wonky here. It does not look, just look weird. But once you actually like put it on, kind of like the shape of your foot kind of makes it all work out in the end. It's kind of hard to describe, and I don't want to just like slip this on my foot and shove my foot up here in the camera. But yeah, so I made this, and this was a while ago, but I guess it was, for me at the time, it was a big project, you know, it was a daunting project. I had to do it on double pointed needles, but I can see that the heel flap, and the heel, is the same technique as the more recent socks that I've been making lately. And also this kind of yarn too, with it being variegated, meaning like self-striping, like it fades on its own from one color to the next. It's really fun and really entertaining while you're knitting up a project. Really fun to kind of see how the project is coming out and see how the colors change as you're knitting them, and wonder, well, what color is going to come next and how's it going to look in the end. So it's really fun. Maybe someday I'll have to find similar yarn and make the mate to this sock. Because I mean, on its own, yeah, this is a functioning sock. I just got the second sock syndrome so bad, I just never finished the next one, which is exactly what second sock syndrome is when you know, you finish a project, and in this case, finished making a whole sock, and just can't bring yourself to make the next one. I think that as I have been making this podcast and actually like keeping track or having something to like actually, you know, keep record of the things that I'm making, I am realizing how much of a almost temperamental crafter I am. Like, it, you know, if something bores me or I lose interest, I just kind of set it aside. But especially, I've kind of been digging through my stash this, like, for the last couple weeks, actually searching for something that I'll still get to later. But I'm finding so many things, and maybe I really will just kind of have to like hunker down and work on what I have, use the yarn that I already have, finish the whips, the works in progress, the things that I already have, instead of just adding to my stash, because I have a lot of really cool stuff. So anyways, yeah, maybe I will be able to make another one of these socks at some point. But I wanted to show you this. This is the very first sock I ever made. And like I said, I just made it by itself. And then I've made a couple pairs since. I've made 2 pairs since I made this sock. I made the 1 pair for myself and 1 pair for my husband, and now working on the 2nd pair for myself. Now that I know that I can make them with circular needles, it makes it, you know, it makes it feel easier and more fun to make them. So that's that. Okay, so the next thing to show you guys is my progress on my sweater. This, of course, I'm talking about the Basic Raglan Pullover by Joji Locatelli. I have the body done. There's a sleeve missing right there, and there is a sleeve over here. So you can see I have the body of the sweater. This part is all done. It definitely flips up. This hem down here, the ribbing at the bottom of the sweater has been flipping up. You can see it just kind of naturally wants to just flip up. I'm hoping that when I'm all finished, I will, you know, block the sweater, which if you're unfamiliar, basically that just means you soak the sweater, especially if it's made of natural fibers, which of this is made of a BFL wool, which is a blue-faced Leicester wool, coming from some sheep in England. So this is a high quality wool. By the way, this is from Amy Florence of the Stranded Dye Works and the Stranded Dye Works podcast. This color is called Midnight Sun. It's very lovely, and I very much like the colors. You can see just a very nice, pretty, pale, even almost gray purple. It's still nice and pale, but I really like how you can kind of see the little differences. I think that might be called tonal. Maybe, I could be mistaken, I could be completely wrong, but where it just kind of just very slight differences in the color. It kind of shifts just very slightly, but it turns out really pretty. Anyways, oh, so blocking, you soak the garment of natural fibers. You soak it in water. You can add like some softener or cleaner, and then when it dries, you straighten it, you shape it into the shape you want it to be. And once it's all wet, I don't know why, but it just kind of conforms to however you want it to be. So when all is said and done, I'll be, you know, soaking it, blocking it. I will lay it out nice and flat, see if it will come out flat in the end, or if I'm gonna have to like tweak it or something, or do something to it. Last time I podcast, I had part of this sleeve here. So I had, here's the stitch marker, another stitch marker by the Clever Clove. And that is what I had there. And I was really hoping to have finished this sleeve by today's filming, but it did not happen. But almost. So I continued on down. So this sleeve in particular has decreases as it goes. So I'm knitting in the round. After I put the sleeves, I put both sleeves on waste yarn and knitted, started knitting in the round, and basically after I knit 2 inches from the bottom where it connects to the actual sweater itself, they had me, the pattern had me, well, it has different directions for different sizes. So for my size, it was saying to knit in the round and decrease every 6 rounds 18 times. So I was working that, doing that, so you'll have this kind of taper on down the sleeve. I am at, I've done the 6 rows with a decrease of multiple of about 16 times. So I have to do that only 2 more times. And as it got small enough, I couldn't comfortably keep using my circular needles with the magic loop method. It ended up just getting awkward. And as awkward as I have come to find double pointed needles, I was just like, we gotta put them on. We just gotta do it. Let's just do it. I feel like this makes it, one, it makes it a little more awkward to be using these double pointed needles down here at the end. And 2, it just feels like it makes it slower, a little bit slower, because when I am going from one needle to the next, I'm being sure to tighten up the first couple stitches on the needle so that I don't have that laddering effect that you sometimes see when you're using double pointed needles and you're not, you know, there's not enough tension in between where the needles switch from one to the other, and you can kind of end up with a wonky little line. I don't want that, but I should be almost done. By the way, there is my little stitch marker to mark the start of my round. That is that little pastel piece of cake. I feel like that just goes really pretty with the purple of this sweater, and that is by Pitter Patter Polymer. So yeah, and then after I do 2 more sets of repeats with decreases, then I should be switching to smaller needles to do 2 inches of ribbing for the very end of that sleeve there. So definitely I should have the sleeve done by the next time I film. Life's gonna be a little interesting between now and the next time I film. My work schedule is gonna be a bit wonky. Where I work, so I work in a hospital as a nurse. We have a self-scheduling system, and spring break is coming up. So my little sister-in-law is going to be spending some time with us. She's in college, so she has like a week for spring break. We're going to do some fun things, probably drive up to Washington. But in order to have like the most time off that I can for the week of spring break, I'm going to schedule myself to like work at the beginning of that week so that I have the whole rest of the week and the beginning of the next week off. So with the self-scheduling, that's the awesome part, is if I have to work 3 days a week, I can schedule myself the first 3 days of one week, the last 3 days of the next week, and I've got 4 days off in the middle, blah, blah, blah. I hope you all wanted to hear about that. I know you were worried, but anyways. All that to say that I don't know how much time I'm going to have to knit between now and the next time I podcast, but then I should have a lot of time between the filming of that podcast and the next podcast. So anyways, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. If we just have to blather on about knitting and crochet kind of like I am right now, with just not a whole lot of progress to show you, then we'll just do that. So we'll see how much I have done next time. Hopefully I will have quite a bit to show you. What I do want to show you this week, so I mentioned that I was searching for something. I wanted to show you guys some of my stitching that I've done in the past. I used to be, well, I still am into cross stitching, but I used to only do cross stitching. Like right now, my crafting is mostly knitting and crochet, some stitching here and there, and I spent a lot of time last year cross stitching. You can go back, I think it's episode 5, my Christmas knitting episode, that I show the cross stitch that I made for my sister and my baby niece Oliviana, the elephant, the mama elephant, the baby elephant. My family ended up putting it into the state fair unbeknownst to myself, and surprised me when I showed up looking at the crafts and there was my stitching with like a first prize sticker on it. That was nuts. But yeah, cross stitching was kind of like my first love with crafting. My mom taught me to do it when I was pretty young. I was probably like in 4th grade, 3rd or 4th grade when I started cross stitching. And so I did a lot of different things, especially in middle school and high school. I did a lot of cross stitching. My younger adult life, a lot of cross stitching. It wasn't until I guess it's been about seven years now. So 7 years ago, I was dating my husband, and you know, as we got to know each other, I showed him my crafting and my cross stitching, and I made some things. I was making things for myself. I was making a few things for friends and family, and he kind of mentioned, he's like, you know, this is a lot of work to make these cross stitching projects, a lot of time that you're putting into something that can only really be looked at, can only really be just hung on the wall and looked at. And even that, you stitch it, you spend all your time making it, and then you have to pay someone to frame it, which I do. I know that really it is possible to frame it yourself. There is a way to go about that. I don't know if there's some sort of traditionalist inside me, or I always feel like I would rather just pay a professional. They iron it out so nice and straight, put it on. Although, yeah, like I said, I mean, it is possible to frame your own projects, but I always end up paying someone to frame it, which can get expensive, especially if you have larger projects, and then depending on what kind of frame you want to put on it, it can add up. So he was kind of going on about, like, you know, why don't you try crafting something like that can actually be used, like something that's actually productive in a way. And at first I was just like, okay, come on, really? Like, I love cross stitch so much. I'm obsessed with cross stitch. I can't do anything else. Eventually, at some point, I ended up giving it a shot, trying something new, and then that just sparked on a whole new obsession on itself, and that's how things got started. But anyways, there was a really big project I wanted to show you, and I still can't find it. I've looked for it for like 2 weeks. I can't find it, which is a little disconcerting. It's somewhere though. It has to be somewhere. Like, I know that I've seen it within the last like several months. It's just somewhere, I just need to find it. But I did find some other cross-stitch projects that I had around and that I wanted to show you guys. So this one here is pretty darn cute. This is just a little kit that I found at like Walmart and just spent a weekend making one time. You can see here it says enjoy the ride, and we've got a bicycle, kind of like a cruising type bicycle. And I don't know if you can tell, but there are French knots in the basket. So you have the cross stitch everywhere with, you know, some back stitching for the lettering and the wheels. But the flowers are actually the French knots to give it a little bit of texture. You can kind of see my initials and the date. I always like to kind of hide those in there somewhere, usually in the bottom right corner, so I have a way to tell when I made something. This pattern was just really cute. I really liked it. I liked the colors. I liked the idea. Enjoy the ride. You know, life is a journey. You just need to enjoy what's going on in the now, living in the now, enjoying the now, being present. I really like that message. This is really cute. You can see I haven't done anything yet with it. I haven't framed it. I haven't, you know, I suppose I could tighten it in this embroidery hoop that it's in, you know, tuck all this behind it, let that be the frame. Maybe, although I think this would look really cute in like a little black square frame. But so that's that. I wanted to show you guys that. I have a couple other cross-stitching projects to show you that I found. This is something else that sadly I didn't frame. I actually intended to give this to someone and then it never happened. Sometimes I guess I'm a pretty flaky crafter, but yeah, I intended to give this to someone. It didn't end up happening, so I will gladly keep this for myself. But how pretty is this? I don't remember where I got this. This was definitely made several years ago. Just a collection of seashells, and there's all kinds of things going on in here. There are some more French knots, like you can see some here. We've got back stitching to make, you know, lines here and there, and some stuff going on there. You know, I didn't really put it together, but this kind of ties into the Handmade Sock Society theme, the coastal theme. I think that this needs to be framed to like adorn a bathroom. Like if someday I have a really nice and fancy bathroom that I can theme of seashells and coastal stuff. I think that's what that needs to be. I'll give you one more look at it here. So, yep. So that's fun. Fairly small project, but I remember this, I mean, this had to have taken me maybe like several weeks, just because it's a little bit more intricate, a little bit more detail and back stitching and fun things. And then you can kind of see in the background there's some half cross stitches to kind of add the shading in the back. You can especially see it over here to kind of give it some texture, some depth. But so that's really fun. You can see these two projects are on Aida cloth, which is this fabric that's relatively stiff. It's got all the little holes in it, so it's pretty straightforward when it comes to stitching. You know exactly where to go in, where to go out, to make each little square in each little cross and each little square. So these are just like really fun little kits to just kind of do individually. But this next one I'm going to show you is a bit more intricate. So before I show you what the actual stitching is, I'll show you what it's on. And this is not Aida cloth like these. This is linen. So with linen, it's a whole nother thing. With linen, you have these itty bitty itty bitty 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 little holes. And usually a lot of linen is what we call 32 count, which means there's 32 itty bitty little squares per inch. Aida is more like 14 or 16 to 12 count. So that's how many stitches would be in an inch across. Linen, you have all those little holes, but you don't necessarily have to make a stitch in each little hole. You can make a stitch over 2 squares, if that makes sense. So the cloth itself is it's thinner. It's you just don't have that texture where things are just as, I don't even know what the word I'm thinking of is. It's just more refined. It's a little bit more refined. It doesn't appear to be as porous, you could say, as the Aida cloth. And typically you can make the stitches still the same size as you would as with an Aida. You just have to be aware that you're going over more than just one square per cross stitch. But in my case, I was in high school and I wanted to be ambitious, and I found a pattern and I bought the pattern, and this was not in a kit. I bought this pattern separate from the linen, but the pattern, you know, I actually spent money on it. It was a really nice pattern. It was over several pages. And I just knew I was going to be ambitious with it. I don't remember how long it took me, but I wanted to be ambitious, and so I made this pattern with a stitch per square on linen. And it was a bit tedious, but it was, like I said, cross stitch was my first love. So I was all in. I'm going to show you what I made. Look at this. So it's rose. You can probably see that. It's a rose. It's a flower. But this is cross stitch on linen. So that is 32 count linen. That means that for every inch of this cross stitch, there are 32 little stitches. And I don't know if you can see all the little stitches. I don't remember how many different shades of green, but I do remember that there are 28 different pinks. And I am a really big fan of pink. 28 different colors of pink to create the shading that gives this, it's just, I mean, just look at it. So this was my masterpiece cross stitch at that time. It is a little bit sad that I still haven't done anything with this. I thought that I would, originally I thought this belongs on a pillow. Like it's, you know, it's got the linen background. Maybe I could, you know, sew this and make a pillow with like some black lace on the back. But I guess now though, I feel like on a pillow it would just be too much at risk of getting something on it or something, you know, something getting dirty. So I think I just need to get this framed and put it somewhere. But yeah, I wanted to show you guys that. Let's see. I know my initials are on here somewhere. I think this one has my initials in the rose or in the leaf maybe. They're hidden. Oh, I can't find it right now. They have got to be just completely camouflaged into the actual pattern. Yeah, because I can't see it. Huh. But, anyways. So I want to show you guys that. There is something else I have. There's a couple other larger cross-stitch projects that I have done in my life. I will save those for another episode because here we are. We're out of time for this week. I like to keep my episodes around half an hour, but you know, we can be flexible. Alright, so anyways, thank you guys so much for watching if you have made it this far. As always, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you like what you see. I hope you guys all have a great week. have fun crafting. Comment down below. Tell me what you're crafting on. I would love to connect with you on Instagram or Ravelry. If you like to be on those Ravelry group pages, there is an Adventures with Yarn group page on Ravelry now. So come on in, introduce yourself, we can chit chat. Mainly that is going to be kind of like a place marker for chit chatter about something I have planned for later this year. So anyways, okay, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode. Have a great week. Keep on crafting, love one another, take care, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!